Next movie I'm going to talk about is Vacation Friends 2, which I didn't even know had come out. I did talk about Vacation Friends 1 like forever ago on the podcast, I think. But they made a sequel. I remember, I think I was just watching wrestling or trying to watch SmackDown or Raw on Hulu. And I was like, is that the sequel? I literally just see it pop up. I was like, wait a second, there's a new one. But for those that don't know, Vacation Friends, in general, the first one is a comedy. It's a comedy featuring Lil Rel, Yvonne Orji, John Cena, and Meredith Hagner. In the first one, Lil Rel and Yvonne Orji's character run into John Cena and Meredith Hagman in the middle of, again, a vacation, and they end up at their wedding, and so much stuff happens. But long story short, this is the sequel, and where the main character, Lil Rel, he pretty much he sets up a vacation on a resort with him and his friends, but he doesn't tell his friends that he's really there also for a business trip. He's trying to kill two birds with one stone. And John Cena and Meredith Hagner they're just so crazy. They're ridiculous. They're over the top. They'll do drugs and they'll drink and they'll do all these things. And so you can see how that would get in the way of his business trip, and kind of how that goes down. It's not as good as the first one. Even the first one's not a great movie. Don't get it twisted. It's not a great movie, but it's just a little bit not as good as the first one. But it's fine. It's exactly what I expected it to be. I think I can't imagine anybody's taking these movies too seriously. They are straight to streaming. There are comedies. We don't get a ton of comedies anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, it's exactly what I expected it to be. There's a couple laughs in here, but there's also a lot of ridiculousness in here that just doesn't make any sense at all. And that definitely can take away from the movie, but when you're expecting that, I really couldn't ask for too much more than what they gave us. So if you just want something kind of maybe even in the background to laugh at every now and then, I think this is still a fine movie. Again, not great, but it's an okay watch. I guarantee you're gonna laugh at least once or twice because Lil Rel is hilarious. John Cena is hilarious. Yvonne Orji's facial expressions are great in this movie, and Meredith Hagner, I think, is I think she's a really good talent as well. So yeah, if you ever get a chance to check out Vacation Friends 2, again, it's fine, but as good as I expected it to be.
I think I need John Cena to be a little bit more selective in his movies. I mean, the man
High
works
key.
a lot, and his output isn't always great. I know he's still in that place of finding who he is as an actor and who he is as a figure in Hollywood. But what I find interesting is that he's been in a lot of mediocre to bad movies, like
Agreed.
full tilt mediocre to bad movies. But what's interesting to me is that it has not hurt his star power really at all. It's not
Mm-hmm.
affected his ability to get, other jobs and still be at the forefront of conversations. I mean, he practically had the best moment at the Oscars this year. So
Thanks.
people still love John Cena, and he can still pop up randomly in Barbie, and folks are like, oh, wow, that's dope. And if this was 15 years ago when The Rock was breaking into Hollywood, I don't think that's
Mm-hmm.
the same case. I think, The Rock had a streak of movies where they just weren't great. He was putting out a lot of those Disney movies, and everybody kind of wrote him off. Like, this might be the end of your career before it ever got started. You were another failed wrestler turned actor until he, sort of
Mm-hmm.
reinvented himself and got back to what brought him to the dance and found that stuff that made him who he was and made him big to begin with. And now we see he's the biggest ever. I say all that to say that I think that it just goes to show how the landscape has changed, because we get so much shit on a weekly basis
So
that
much.
it gets buried. If people just don't see it, or if they see it and they don't like it,
Mm-hmm.
we're on to the next thing so quickly that we don't even have enough time to like dissect and talk about a person's career and like the choices that they're making as a movie star. Like, we never
That's true.
talk about that. We never dissect John Cena's navigation and his path as a movie star up until this point, and he's been doing it for a while now. Like, he's been
Yeah.
making movies for a long time. It's not new. And so
Mm-hmm.
I just find that interesting that you can, I guess, take more risks and they can suck and it just be fine. And you can still come out and have like some of the biggest stuff ever and have a lot of success. But there was certainly a time and era in Hollywood when that was not the case. Like, if you had enough
Mm-hmm.
stinkers in a row, you were done. Like, nobody's hiring you anymore. But things have changed. It's just a different time now.